Hello everyone, it's time again for Trotta Talks, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. First off, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and we're going to get into it rather quickly because I don't want it to weekend. Yesterday we had the legislative meeting, and in the still of the night, very late at the night, actually the last thing we voted on was a lawsuit that we lost, and it had to do with the solar panels that you see at different county facilities. Back in 2012, we were supposed to be by the county, and the county executive, I guess, thought because of the Ronkonkoma hub coming, which is on the other side of the train tracks, not on the parking lot side, he didn't want them there for whatever reason. We really don't know because he really didn't say anything to do it. And what happened was that he canceled the contract, and the company who was supposed to put these solar panels up filed the lawsuit and breached the contract. And unfortunately for us, back in July, what happened was we lost. And unbeknownst to me or any other legislators, we actually paid out $3 million at that point. Where we got the $3 million, we didn't bond it, which I'm sort of happy about, but I'm not happy that we had to pay it, but it was paid. Now, that was in July. We had meetings in July, September, October, and November, one early in November, and we never heard a word about this. Never heard a word. It wasn't until last night that we got what's called the CN, which is a certificate of necessity, which means the county executive has to get this done. We got to get this paid, or there's going to be fees and fines on top of it. Now, you have to ask yourself, why didn't, after he lost the lawsuit, come to us and say, look, we have to pay this, let's go through the committee process and find out what happened? The reason is, he wanted to do it 2 nights before Thanksgiving at 9 o'clock at night, right when the meeting was ending, because News 12 wouldn't be there, the newspapers might be gone, and we would slip it through and no one would ever find out. And guess what? The reason I'm doing Trotta Talks is just for this exact reason, to educate you what's going on in the dark of the night so you know how bad this county is and how I'll say it, corrupt this county is. It's unconscionable that they try to sneak this in. So last night we borrowed $7.8 million to pay off the rest of the lawsuit. Now, if you look at the lawsuit, it actually comes out to over $15 million of taxpayer lost money. The 10.8 that we had to pay, the lost revenue from the solar panels we didn't put up, and the interest. So you, ladies and gentlemen, last night paid a fine, I'll say. You can't be happy about that. But that's the kind of thing they do in the dark of the night. I actually asked the county attorney, why did you come to us months ago with this? He had no answer. None. So you have to think that they're manipulating the press in order to keep this down. There was an article in Newsday today, and it's a pretty well-written article, and it goes over exactly what happened. I suggest you go online and read it. But what I'm telling you is the system is broken, really broken. Now, I think you remember I told you about 3 projects that we did maybe back in July. Plan for a guardrail, the $350,000 plan for 2 miles of sidewalk, and the $500,000 extension to the property section of police headquarters, which is a cement block building with a roof, somewhat climate controlled. That's $1 million of projects that had to go out to bid, not to build them, just to design them. So there's something I didn't tell you about, and I'm going to teach you about pretty briefly tonight because I don't want to keep you up. There's something called the waiver committee, which I understand there's probably a reason for. What the waiver committee does is it takes projects like the ones I just discussed, and it says, listen, rather than give this to 50 people or 100 companies, we're going to limit it to 10 qualified companies, or 5 or 8 or 13. So I started looking into this, and there's some pretty, hefty companies, some big companies. So I pulled 1 or 2 out that I went to in the past week. I go to the waiver committee almost every time. I don't think I've really missed one in 4 years. And what it is, let me tell you what the waiver committee is. It's made up of 3 people, and they analyze contracts. So they take these and decide whether that this is a valid thing to waive the RFP, which is to waive who's going to give us proposals. So they limit the number of people who give us proposals. Sometimes to 10, 8, 6, depending. Sometimes only one person bids and we have to approve it through the waiver committee. So now, this one we just had recently do an intersection on Commack Road and Long Island Avenue. So it's $250,000 to do design work, the permitting, and the construction oversight. So this person, this company would also look over the project when it happened. Now, I want you to think about that. $250,000 for an intersection. Now, I used the analogy before, the $1 million for the 3 projects, that clearly a first-year graduate architect school could do a sidewalk, a guardrail, and a square building. Clearly, for $250,000 more, they could do this. So what does it do? It goes out to the bid to these companies. And there's some companies that are very reputable, very big companies. So what I did was I did a little financial analysis. I looked at campaign contributions, and I think this one had 10 different bidders, and 13, I'm sorry. And 12 of the 13 won yet individually onto who, what campaigns, because quite honestly, it doesn't matter, Republican or Democrat. I spoke about this before. The root of the problem is campaign finance. So I just picked one out, one of the first ones, Cameron Engineering, a very reputable group, and I printed out their campaign contributions for 5 years. Now look, I want you to look how small these are. Each one of these is a campaign contribution. I mean, it could be, I think the lowest one here is probably $100 and it goes up to thousands, you know, $5,000, $6,000. I want you to just look at the pages. This one company, hundreds and hundreds of campaign contributions. This is one company. Okay, and I'm using this company just as an example because there's plenty of them that do the same thing. Pages and pages, whether it be this, you know, the Suffolk County Democratic Party, the Democratic Majority Party, the Town of Oyster Bay Republican Committee. It goes across the board. Now, at the end of this is, now keep in mind, this is one company. They could have a sub-company, the members, the board of directors, they also give money. But just as one company himself, $309,000 in campaign contributions. So you said, how do you get that money? How does that much money come in? Well, when you're paying $250,000 for a design of an intersection, not the construction, the design, you can sort of see where this money comes into play. And this, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what anybody tells you, is your tax money being laundered back to the politicians. Plain and simple. I'm going to be the campaign funding that was used in this last election. You're going to see, you know, shockingly how much was spent on, you know, the various campaigns, and we lost quite a few, 3 or 4 of them that I thought, 2 or 3 of them that I thought we had a really, really good chance of getting. Problem is, you can't go against this money. You know, you have to spend tons of money or use this medium that we're using right now. Now, I don't want to hold you up anymore. I know it's the night before Thanksgiving. I want to wish you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Spend time with your family. And let me tell you, I will be on top of this, and I will be doing this monthly, maybe weekly, and we're going to go over some different things, but I want to educate you into where your tax money is being spent wisely and where it's being spent wastefully. And I can tell you now, from what I see, most of it is being spent wastefully. Well, thanks again for tuning in, and again, have a great Thanksgiving.